Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're tackling something pretty vital for your GCSE English language exam.
Yeah, how to really nail those writing tasks.
Exactly. We've got a load of practical strategies here, really aimed at helping you, if you're, say, 13 to 15 in the UK, feel much more confident about, creative and persuasive writing when you actually sit that exam.
Our aim is basically to pull out the tips that will genuinely make a difference.
Right.
And if there's one thing, maybe the first thing to get to grips with, it's the value of a bit of planning.
Mm-hmm. Even though it's not actually marked.
Exactly. It's not marked, but spending even, 5 minutes thinking ahead can totally change how well you do. It's about getting your thoughts straight.
Yeah, making sure it flows.
Making sure your writing flows properly, yeah.
Yeah.
And developing your ideas more fully within the time you've actually got.
That makes sense. So even just jotting down a few quick bullet points, that can have a surprisingly big impact on clarity and structure.
Oh, definitely. Big impact. Now, when it comes to creative writing, there isn't really one single right way to plan, is there?
No, it seems much more about finding what clicks for you personally.
That's it. You might want to sort of have a go with a few different approaches. Mind maps can be really good, visually seeing how ideas connect.
I like mind maps.
Yeah. Or bullet points. They're pretty straightforward. Just list your key bits. You could even use a quick table, maybe. Or a flow chart if you're mapping out a story
A
sequence.
flow chart, okay.
Yeah, or even just like a quick doodle sometimes helps get things started.
And for stories, narratives, you sometimes hear about Freytag's pyramid.
Yes, that's a classic structure, isn't it? Looking at how a story builds up, hits a turning point, and then resolves. Lots of stories kind of follow that pattern.
Right. So what about descriptive writing then? If you're planning for that, what are the key things?
Okay, for descriptive, you definitely need to think about perspective. So who is actually doing the observing and describing?
Whose eyes are we seeing through?
Precisely. And you'll want to pinpoint your focus. What specific aspect are you going to describe? Especially if they give you a picture prompt in the exam, you need to decide what you'll concentrate on.
And I guess bringing it to life means thinking about senses.
Oh, absolutely vital. Sight, sound, smell, taste, touch. If you can jot down a few specific details for those in your plan, your writing will be so much more vivid.
Makes sense.
And don't forget about literary techniques, even just planning to use a couple of similes, maybe a metaphor, or thinking about using contrasts.
Like light and dark, or quiet and loud.
Exactly. Those kinds of things. Just note them down. And structure is key, too. You might plan, say, start wide, like a panorama.
Okay.
Then maybe zoom in on a detail, then maybe focus on just one thing, shift focus a couple of times, then pull back out again.
Like a camera lens moving.
Sort of, yeah. And all the time, you're thinking, what's the mood? What atmosphere am I trying to create here?
Okay, that's really clear for descriptive. What if you're planning a narrative, like a story? What goes in that plan?
Right, for a story, well, characters are key. But probably stick to just one or two.
Why is that?
Just because you don't have much time in the exam to develop loads of them properly, focus on making one or two feel real. Think about who they are, what they want.
Their motivation?
Yeah, what makes them tick. Then setting, obviously, where and when. And crucially, what's the conflict or the main event? What's the problem or the decision that drives the story?
And structure again, I suppose, like a beginning, middle, end, or that 5-part thing.
Exactly. Having some kind of structure in mind is helpful, and maybe note down any narrative techniques you want to try, like varying your sentence lengths for effect, or where you might slip in some figurative language.
You've got this example plan here describing a busy city street at night. Can we walk through that?
Sure. So the focus is clear. Capture that bustling nighttime atmosphere. Perspective is first person puts the reader right there.
Okay.
Then sensory details are planned. Neon signs flickering, shuffling people for sight. Honking horns, distant sirens for sound.
What about smell?
Sizzling street food, damp pavement, and touch, maybe the cold air.
And you've got literary techniques planned too.
Yep. Personification, the straight hummed. A metaphor, neon lights like electric veins. Some alliteration too, bustling bars, brilliant billboards, makes it sound more energetic.
Nice. And the structure.
It moves, like we said, from a wide view, then zooms in on specific things, people laughing, maybe someone homeless, then ends with a quieter feeling as the narrator moves away.
Yeah, you can almost picture it just from the plan. So when you're actually doing the plan in the exam, what are the top tips? Keep it quick.
Definitely quick. Aim for about 5, maybe 10 minutes max. You need that writing time.
What?
Keep it clear so you understand it, and then try to stick to it as you write it. gives you that structure.
But what if a brilliant idea pops into your head while writing?
Oh, absolutely. Go with it. Be flexible with imagery if something better comes up. The plan's a guide, not, handcuffs. And maybe quickly reread each paragraph as you finish it. Just check it makes sense, links up. And definitely aim for a strong opening and a strong ending. They really stick with the examiner.
Okay, so planning is step one, super important. But then, the actual shape of the writing itself. Structure. How much does that matter for marks?
Oh, structure is incredibly important for GCSE English writing. Really important. A well-structured piece shows the examiner you can organize your thoughts, your writing with purpose, with imagination.
Makes it easier for them to follow, I guess.
Exactly. They can see what you're trying to do much more easily. And the structure should fit the style, fit the atmosphere you're going for.
Whether it's description or a story or just an opening.
Precisely. And while there's no single magic formula, a simple sort of 5-stage structure often works really well for creative writing.
Okay, what are the stages?
You start with an engaging opening, something that grabs attention. Vivid description, maybe some tension, sensory details.
Hook the reader in.
Yeah. Then establish your setting or introduce your character, set the scene, the tone. Then comes development, adding depth, building things up.
Right.
Then a turning point or climax, a key moment where something shifts in emotion and action, maybe even the weather changes to reflect the mood.
Okay, the peak.
Sort of. And finally, an impactful ending. Something memorable, an image, a feeling, a final thought that stays with the reader.
That sounds like a really solid framework. And within those big stages, what about individual paragraphs? Do they need a specific job?
Yeah, ideally, each paragraph should have a clear purpose. Maybe it's
Yeah.
building atmosphere or showing a character's feelings or moving the action forward.
And what should you try and get into the paragraphs?
Well, those sensory details we talked about, vital. Imagery, similes, metaphors to create pictures. Personification can make a setting feel alive.
Giving things human qualities.
Exactly. The zoom-in technique works well, too. Focus on a tiny detail. Shifts in tone or perspective can be good. Even symbolism, if you can weave it in subtly, adds depth.
You've got another example plan here, describing a bus journey. How does that fit the structure?
Okay, so the intro sets the scene, rattling city bus, evening mood. Paragraph 1 uses imagery to describe the city outside.
Right.
Paragraph 2 contrasts outside-inside, maybe uses a smell like a salty aroma. Paragraph 3 looks at the world going by outside.
Okay.
Then paragraph 4 shifts focus to a specific character on the bus, makes it more personal. Paragraph 5 might reflect on city life themes, anonymity, routine, and the conclusion aims for a poignant shift, something memorable.
That maps it out really clearly. Okay, so that covers creative writing, planning, and structure really well. But there's also persuasive writing in the exam, isn't there? Different kettle of fish.
It is a bit different, yeah, but structure is just as crucial, maybe even more so in some ways.
Why is that?
Because a well-organized, persuasive piece makes your argument so much clearer, more logical, more convincing. It shows you can write fluently, purposefully.
So what are the keys to persuasive structure?
Start with a really clear opinion. Leave the reader in no doubt where you stand right from the beginning. Then develop your points logically and finish strong.
And does the type of persuasive writing matter? Like article, letter, speech?
Yeah, the structure should fit the form and audience you're writing for. But there is a kind of core structure that often works.
It's another 5-stager.
Often, yes.
Yeah.
It's a reliable approach. Stage 1, engaging opening. Grab attention. Maybe a rhetorical question, a bold statement, a statistic if you have one, or a short anecdote.
Okay, hook 'em in again.
Exactly. Stage 2, state your viewpoint clearly, no messing about. Stage 3, main body paragraphs, maybe 2 or 3. Each one focuses on one clear argument supporting your view. Use persuasive devices, maybe evidence if you can conjure some.
Right.
Stage 4, tackle the counterargument. Acknowledge the other side.
Not about it.
Precisely. And then explain why your view is stronger. And stage 5, memorable conclusion. A powerful summary, maybe a call to action. Tell the reader what to do or think. Leave them thinking.
Got it. And what about the techniques within those persuasive paragraphs? What makes them punchy?
Good question. Discourse markers are really useful words like firstly, however, furthermore, in conclusion. They signpost your argument.
Like linking words.
Yeah, guides the reader. Direct address is good, talking straight to the reader. Don't we all want, or surely you can see, makes it personal.
Rhetorical questions.
Definitely. Make the reader think. Facts and statistics, if possible, add weight. emotive language words that stir feelings very persuasive.
Like heartbreaking or inspiring.
Exactly. Repetition of key words can work. The rule of 3 listing things in threes sounds good. Anecdotes, short personal stories make points relatable. And that call to action at the end is often very powerful.
Let's look at this example plan arguing about overprotective parents. How does it use the structure?
Okay, so this plan argues against being too overprotective. The intro uses an anecdote, creates a contrast with modern restrictions, then asks a rhetorical question.
Get you thinking straight away.
Yeah. Paragraph 1 talks about negative consequences. Kids lacking life skills, gives an example maybe of older teens, argues risk-taking builds responsibility.
Right.
Paragraph 2 focuses on the benefits of risk practical skills, curiosity, independence. Paragraph 3 tackles the counter-argument, parental fear, but argues maybe that fear is outdated, maybe uses a safety statistic. Paragraph 4 highlights resilience, how facing challenges builds it. And the conclusion, call to action for more freedom, reinforces the viewpoint, ends memorably.
So it really follows that structure logically. It seems like whether it's creative or persuasive, planning and structure are the foundations for doing well in the GCSE writing tasks.
Absolutely fundamental. It's about being organized, being purposeful in how you communicate your ideas. It gives you that roadmap.
It makes the whole thing less daunting, maybe.
Hopefully. It helps ensure your writing is coherent, developed, and actually achieves what you set out to do, whether that's creating a world or changing someone's mind.
Okay, let's shift focus slightly. We've talked structure, but how do you actually start your creative writing piece in a way that grabs the examiner, that initial hook?
Ah, the opening. Yes, crucial. Getting that first paragraph right can really lift your marks in descriptive or narrative tasks.
Why is it so important?
Well, it's your first impression. A strong opening grabs attention immediately, creates intrigue, sets the tone. You need to make the reader, the examiner, want to keep reading, make them care.
So you need to plan that opening carefully.
Definitely. Think about the setting, the mood you want before you write that first line.
What are some good techniques then for grabbing attention right at the start?
There are quite a few you could try. You could start right in the middle of the action, in medias res, they call it.
Like sirens wailing, someone running.
Exactly. Instant energy. Or you could focus on establishing atmosphere straight away, maybe describing thick fog, a strange smell, creating a mood.
Setting the scene intensely.
Yeah. Or introduce a character with a really strong voice or a striking thought.
Someone with attitude, perhaps.
Could be. Or maybe pose a question directly to the reader. Have you ever realized? That pulls them in.
What about something shocking?
Yeah, a shocking or mysterious statement can work wonders. The only thing left was the blood-stained shoe. Instant questions. Or even start with an imperative and order, picture this, an empty boat.
Makes the reader actively imagine it.
Right. There are lots of options. Think about famous books, 1984's Clock, striking 13, instantly weird. Pride and Prejudice's witty opening line. A Tale of Two Cities, massive contrasts. They all hook you.
You've got an example here of a grade 9 opening paragraph about a desolate house.
Yes. Look how it uses description, skeletal fingers of trees, eye socket windows, sighed, wept. It's all building that specific, eerie atmosphere right from the first sentence.
Very evocative.
Yeah.
Okay, so openings are key. What about the setting itself throughout the piece? How important is that?
Hugely important. You pretty much always need some sense of setting in creative writing for the exam. A strong setting doesn't just say where things are happening.
It does more.
Yeah, it immerses the reader. An effective setting creates atmosphere and mood. It engages the senses. It can reflect how characters are feeling, and it can even build tension or suspense.
So how do you actually go about creating a strong setting?
Start by asking, where does this happen? What mood do I want? Why does the setting matter? How does it affect the characters? How do they interact with it?
Does weather help?
Oh, definitely. Weather or time of day are classic ways to set a mood. Think gloomy rain versus bright sunshine.
You need to keep developing it, not just mention it at the start.
Absolutely. The setting should evolve, continue to influence the mood. Think of Frankenstein, the gloomy weather mirrors the dark events. Or Bleak House Dickens repeats the word fog over and over to create this suffocating feeling.
Or Lord of the Flies.
Good example. The setting sun becomes a metaphor for darkness taking over.
So what techniques are good for describing setting effectively?
Use those 5 senses again, the scent of rain on hot pavement, the sound of distant traffic. Personification works well. The wind whispered secrets. Symbolism, maybe a broken clock represents lost time.
Metaphors.
Yeah, the city was a sleeping giant. Repetition can build atmosphere. Snow fell. Snow fell everywhere. Pathetic fallacy, where the weather mirrors emotions like a sudden storm during an argument.
Zooming in again.
Yes, focusing on small details, a crack in a mirror, a single wilting flower. And contrast the sound of laughter from inside a warm pub versus the cold rain outside.
Any quick tips from examiners on setting?
They often say avoid vague descriptions, be specific, convey the mood through the details,
Yeah.
and try to link the setting to how your characters feel or what they do.
Makes sense.
Oh.
Okay, moving on to characters. Do you always need them?
It depends on the task, but even in a description, you usually have an observer, a narrative voice. And if it's a story, yeah, characters add interest. But like we said with planning, stick to maybe one or two well-developed ones.
So you can really focus on them in the time limit.
Exactly. Plan key aspects. What do they look like, if relevant? What's their personality? How do they speak? How do they move?
What about writing in the first person?
Very common. Lets you create a strong persona, a voice.
So how do you make characters feel, real, give them depth?
Yeah, think about their background, age, personality, motivations, but crucially, show, don't just tell.
What does that mean? Show, don't tell.
It means instead of saying she was angry, describe her clenched fists, her sharp tone, her flushed face. Show her anger through her actions, thoughts, dialogue, how she interacts with others. That's indirect characterization, and examiners reward it.
Okay. What about dialogue?
Dialogue can reveal personality. Different characters speak differently, right? But use it sparingly. It needs to move the story forward or reveal something important, not just fill space.
These small details too.
Yes. Quirks, habits, little traits make characters memorable. And think about their journey. Do they change or learn something? Observing how authors build characters in books you read is great research. Ask yourself, what makes this character interesting?
So indirect characterization is better than just stating facts about them.
Generally, yes. You can use direct description for appearance if it's significant, like if their look symbolizes something or their expression is key. But showing character through movement, body language, using strong verbs, internal thoughts, and dialogue is usually more effective and engaging.
What about internal monologue? Like their thoughts?
That can be really good, especially in first person. It creates a personal tone, shows their voice through punctuation, emotive language. It's often a great way to show character without needing lots of external dialogue.
Okay, so if you do use dialogue, actual spoken words, what's the deal with that?
Right, dialogue is a useful tool, but you don't have to use it for full marks. If you do, it absolutely must be formatted correctly and serve a purpose.
Not just filler.
Definitely not. It should reveal character, relationships, or move the plot along.
You mentioned internal monologue as an alternative. How does that work?
So internal monologue is the character's inner thoughts. You don't use quotation marks for it. It gives direct insight into their feelings, worries, memories. It can show hesitation, build personality traits. It's often safer than dialogue if you're unsure about punctuation.
So an example might be,
Like someone's about to leave and they might think, should I really go? What if he calls just as I walk out the door? No, I decided. Time to be brave. See? No speech marks, but you get their internal conflict.
that makes sense, but don't overdo it.
Yeah, keep it reasonably concise like dialogue.
Okay, but if you use actual dialogue, spoken words, what are the absolute must-know grammar rules?
Right, essentials. Use double quotation marks like this around the spoken words.
Got it.
New speaker means a new line, always.
Okay.
If you have a dialogue tag, like he said or she whispered, put a comma inside the quotation mark before the tag, unless it's a question mark or exclamation mark. The sentence then ends with a full stop after the tag.
Example.
I'm leaving now, she said. Comma inside, full stop after said.
What if there's no she said?
Then the full stop goes inside the quotation mark. I'm leaving now, full stop inside.
And question marks, exclamation marks.
They go inside the quotation marks too, and you don't add a comma or full stop after them if you then have a dialogue tag. Like, are you sure? He asked. Or, get out, she screamed.
Okay, that's fiddly but important.
Yeah.
Can you blend dialogue and internal monologue?
Yes, definitely. You could have a character say something, then reveal their inner thoughts about it. Like, of course I understand, he said smoothly. Liar, he thought. You haven't got a clue.
Ah, that adds another layer. Okay, we've covered loads on planning, structuring, character, setting, dialogue. What about the very end? Checking your work.
Proofreading. Yes. Absolutely essential. Examiners look for technical accuracy. That means your spelling, punctuation, grammar, vocabulary, sentence structure.
So you can lose marks easily here.
You can. Simple errors made under pressure can drag your mark down. Proofreading helps catch those, and it also just makes your writing clearer and flow better.
What's the best way to proofread in an exam? You don't have much time.
Good point. One useful trick is to reread at the end of each paragraph, not just the whole thing at the very end. Ask yourself, does this make sense? Does it link? Are my ideas clear? Any awkward sentences? Is the tone right?
So little checks along the way.
Exactly. Then, at the very end, do a final sweep, specifically looking for common mistakes.
Like what?
Capital letters, start of sentences, names, the word I. End of sentence, punctuation, full stops, question marks, exclamation marks. Make sure you haven't used commas instead. Missing words, easy to do when writing fast.
Common spellings.
Yes. Apostrophes, tricky ones for possession, the dog's bone, and omission, don't. It's homophones, words that sound the same but are spelt differently, like there, or to two. Watch out for joined words that should be separate, like a lot is two words.
Anything else to look for?
Sentence variety. Are you using a mix of short and long sentences, simple and complex ones? Check your dialogue formatting if you used any. And check your tenses, are they consistent? Unless you deliberately change tense for, say, a flashback.
That sounds like a lot to check.
It does, but even fixing a few key mistakes can really improve clarity and boost your marks. They don't expect perfection under exam conditions, but clear, structured, reasonably accurate writing will always do better.
Is there like a quick checklist maybe?
Yeah, you could have a mental one. Does it make sense overall? Do paragraphs link? Basic punctuation. Okay. Tense is consistent.
Yeah.
Capitals right. Dialogue, question, and punctuation correct. Any missing words? Basic spelling, especially apostrophes. Checked any words I know I struggle with.
That's really helpful.
Okay.
Okay, so to bring this deep dive on GCSE English language writing skills to a close, let's just quickly recap those absolute key strategies.
Great idea.
Okay, number one, plan your writing. Even just a few minutes, a few bullet points. It helps structure ideas, keeps you coherent.
Right, here.
Structure purposefully. Think about that 5-stage structure for creative writing: opening, development, turning point, ending. For persuasive, clear viewpoint, logical arguments, counter-arguments, strong conclusion.
Engage your reader. Hook them from the start. Create vivid settings, believable characters using description and literary techniques. For persuasive, use those devices like rhetorical questions and direct address.
Or
Use dialogue effectively if you use it. Make sure it's formatted right and serves a purpose. Or consider internal monologue.
And finally, 5.
Proofread meticulously. Check for those errors in grammar, spelling, punctuation. Check sentence variety. It really bumps up your technical accuracy marks.
Excellent summary.
And remember, the key really is practice. Try these techniques out with different writing tasks. See what works best for you. That's how you'll build confidence for the exam.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for joining us for this deep dive, and honestly, all the very best with your GCSEs.